Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Also to our non-Muslim relatives and friends, it is very important. Last week we talked about the executive function, and I really have to make a big deal again to emphasize that executive function is the last thing we build, or the last thing that develops in our brain. So from the previous months, everything else is really, really important, okay? And one of my favorite words with brain stuff is the word motricity, M-O-T-R-I-C-I-T-Y. Everything we do as human beings is built on movement. You'll notice that what we call primitive reflexes, newborn children, you didn't teach them to grab things. You didn't teach them to be startled. You didn't teach them to breastfeed. I use that as an example a lot. When I test brain trauma or brain injury, strokes, brain trauma, car accidents, motorcycles, and autism, ADHD, especially with adults in brain trauma, I always look for, believe it or not, what we call the rooting or sucking reflex. We didn't teach our babies how to do this. And it's literally, you stroke the baby's cheek, and I do two different locations. For Muslim men, it's especially important to hit up here so that we get past the beard, men with beards, and also along the lower jawline to the lip. So what I'll do is I'll stroke to the lip, and I'll do both sides, because sometimes I get a reflex, and this should be gone well before the end of the first year of life. But imagine if I see that as in an adult, male or female, but imagine I see that in an adult after a brain trauma. That means their brain has been injured, their brain has regressed, and the old, what we call primitive reflexes that babies are born with and we should grow out of as other parts of our brain develop. If that reflex is still there, and like I said last week, I've seen it in adults. My most recent was an adult male in his 40s. Stroke, and it was really cool because it was actually one side and not the other. And it matched the trauma and blah, 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 blah. But the idea is those are what we look for, we build from. The baby is born hardwired. Babies are blessed with primitive reflexes. So we look for those. I test for 10 in the office. And then we also we've got balance, we've got vestibular function, then we've got eye movement, we've got all the way up until literally executive function is up here. When we think of it, it's mainly the frontal lobe, dorsolateral, for those of you who remember all that stuff, dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, and the frontal polar area. That's the last thing to develop in human beings. And that is the most integrated, most hardwired part of your brain is this frontal area. Women, to a man's disadvantage, generally speaking, women hit theirs or grow theirs a few years before men do. Women are usually early to mid-20s, and men are mid-20s to late 20s. So it's true. But at the same time, that's the way Allah designed us, so we're all equal in the eyes of Allah, right? So I bring that up because today I'm going to be talking about something that's really, really important to executive function, or how you would say is an important part of executive function. And it also ties back into the months, what we did, a month and a half or so of just goal setting. It's very important to understand, and I used to think, even myself, I used to think this was all woo-woo stuff, and it's not. It's very important to visualize what we talked about before, your goals. It's very important to visualize your success. Self-talk is a very important part of that. But today we're going to talk about just visualization. And as the sister mentioned last week when we were interacting at the end, the Quran is very, very, very descriptive. The words and the brothers and sisters that speak Arabic, the descriptions in Arabic are even more picturesque, more beautiful, or more scary, whatever the point of that verse or that surah is. It's a very picturesque, descriptive book, and so that you can literally visualize. Like for me, the verse that says protect you and your family, that's always stuck with me. Protect you first and your family from a fire whose fuel is mankind and stones. I've always been able to picture being trapped in a giant hot, so hot, I can't picture hot, but I can see the stones on the ground in this enclosed, just red hot, hot, that even the stones are burning. So that's a verse that hit me the first time I read it and has never left me. And then there's the other verses and descriptions of heaven, descriptions of, as we talk about the forelock all the time, frontal lobe for me, and the brothers, or the I think it was a brother that interacted with me on my YouTube channel, messaging. Sometimes I comment on some of the questions or statements. He was saying that based on somebody, a Dr. Christian something or other, it's supposed to be hair, and there was a theoretical argument about it, and this other guy proved that it meant hair. And as I said before, I'm fine with that. But there's another verse in Surah Hud that says, I believe it's Hud, that says Allah has all creatures by their forelock. And as I reminded the brother, obviously I don't have a forelock of hair here. So what must Allah have me by? So the idea is, whether I'm right or wrong based on my English translation and interpretation of it. As I said before, anything I say that is wrong is totally on me. Any good that comes out of this is from Allah. But again, these things are all picture. The verse from Hud that says Allah has all of creation by their forelock, or whatever the Arabic word is there. This is it. So for me, these pictures and the beauty of heaven and descriptions of the good stuff and the descriptions of the bad stuff, the yes and the no, the halal and the haram, the rewards, the punishments. It's very important, and that leads me right into the visualization. When you are doing anything, take a second to visualize an outcome. If you're setting goals, as we did, I didn't make a big deal about visualization, but as I explained, and that's why I'm doing a talk on visualization today. As I explained, it's really important to have a concrete idea and picture of your goal. Yes, a very concrete picture of your goal. For Muslims, goal setting should be easy. We've got a goal of and non-Muslims also, sorry. We've got the ultimate goal is heaven, except for the atheists, if there's any atheists in our audience. The ultimate goal is heaven. So think about what takes place there and your picture of heaven. There's beautiful verses. There's the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that describe heaven and the shade of the tree that is so big and casts so much shade that it takes 700 years for a rider, a horseback rider, to travel from one end of the shade all the way to the other. 700 years, that's how big and beautiful this tree is and how comforting that shade is. So we've got all these pictures. So what I'm going to do is, with the Quran is my example, I'm going to emphasize the fact that all of you start visualizing that goal that you should have written down. You should have come up with a great goal, one in many. You should have come up with a great purpose. Maybe it's for the good of your family, for the good of the community, for the good of society, for everyone in the world. Whatever your gigantic motivating purpose is, your goal, your purpose, and then your action step. And then how long is it going to take you? If you could get it done ideally, what's the time frame? Is it a 1 week goal? It is a 1 month goal? Is it a 1 year goal? Is it a goal for your lifetime? I'm not a big fan of, I don't plan on retiring. So I don't have a retirement goal, but some people do, and I'm cool with retirement. Believe me, it's it's not good or bad. I just don't see that anytime soon. The idea is, though, if you have a goal, literally close your eyes right now, and you can listen to me. Close your eyes and picture what that goal is. There's some great research about, they use basketball players, they use golfers, they've used a lot of sports stuff because you can measure that right now. And there was a basketball research that had 3 different groups. You had a control group that didn't do anything. You had another group that practiced every day for an hour. You had another group that did not practice but visualized every day for an hour. So what they did was they measured how good they were at shooting a specific shot. I think it was a foul shot. And at the end of 2 weeks, they measured changes, if there were any. The control group that did nothing saw no improvement, no change, no improvement, no decrease, nothing. The group that practiced every day, they actually improved by 24% in 2 weeks. Literally, practice, and perfect practice improves or leads to perfection, right? Leads you towards perfection. So the group that actually practiced that shot every day improved 24%. Huge level of improvement. The group that only visualized didn't improve as much, but they did improve, picture this, 21%. Visualizing. Now, don't just sit around and think about losing weight. But the idea is you should use the visualization process when you're not exercising, when you're struggling to control the appetite or whatever, because that's measurable, right? You want to visualize what you're going to look like, what you're going to feel like, the clothes you're going to wear, the activities you're now going to be able to do because, as my patients, the joints don't hurt as much. If you're doing a little bit of exercise, which I teach and encourage at the office, we improve muscle tone and stabilize, particularly the knees and the ankles and the hips, right? And the lower back. I apologize. While I'm thinking of it, the lower back exercise I said I was going to put up on my Instagram account. My son got sick that week, so I wasn't able to use him to demonstrate while I talked. And then he was making up with overtime stuff this past week, what he didn't get paid the week before. So that is still there, and he and I are planning time together this weekend to literally knock out a few videos that are real straightforward for lower back stuff. And again, though, visualize, open your eyes if you haven't already, sorry. The idea is visualization is so important, and a great example is not just the research stuff, but think about if you go to movies, or even if you watch them in your home, you're sitting there, pretend you watch a scary movie. I don't like scary movies, but if you're watching a scary movie, pretend you went to the theater to watch a scary movie. One of my daughters loves scary movies. She always gets scared, but she likes it. You go to the movie, you pay, $5, $10, and you're with friends. You're in a theater, nice cushiony seats, and pow, the scary part happens, and you still jump. You walked in there. You know it's fake. You know there's no threat. Why are you scared? Your brain cannot tell a joke. Your brain believes your eyes darn near more than it believes everything else. So imagine if you still use your eye function, but close your eyes, like I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to visualize all the different descriptions of heaven that I've read, I've heard, the green soft silk gowns, on couches, and in Jannah, men are will be dressed in silk, comfortable, surrounded by people we love and people that love us. We can think into existence any food or drink that tastes better than anything we've ever had here. Open my eyes. Think about if you visualize your end result. And in goal setting, that's hugely important, because what we're talking about is, what is that ultimate goal? What does, pretend it's weight, not basketball or golf. Pretend it's weight, because I don't play golf. The idea is, pretend it's weight. I used to do, for the office, we used to do these weight loss dinners and talk and advertise and invite people in for a dinner. Try to make it as healthy as we can, and then invite them in as patients. One of the questions I always ask, because I like fives, is how many people want to lose 50 pounds? Almost everybody in the audience, literally at every dinner, would raise their hands. How many people have tried? Almost everybody in the audience has raised their hands. Then, how many think they can? Boop! Literally the hands fall. That's why they're there, right? It's because they think they can't anymore. But they're at the dinner. And it's not just the free food. They've got to listen to me talk for about 45 minutes about weight loss. And the idea is, when I do say, how many people could lose 50 pounds, or excuse me, how many people could lose 1 pound this week? Almost everybody, and you see where I'm going to go with this, almost everybody raises their hand. All of us can probably lose 1 pound a week. So now, if your goal is the big 5-0, and you can lose 1 pound a week, that's your action step. Now, what's your time frame? A year. Now you've got 2 extra weeks, just in case, right? So imagine now you start visualizing, holy cow, a year from today, this is what I'm going to look like. And it's an easy picture. What did I look like 50 pounds ago? You have those pictures if you haven't gotten rid of them. You know what you look like 50 pounds less. You may remember what year of middle school, high school, college, or the first in your 20s or in your teens, whatever it was. You have that picture in your head. You have that picture in your head. And imagine what it looks like. Visualize that end result at 1 pound a week. Does that make sense? If it's a monetary goal in the office or in your workplace, pretend you want a $5,000 raise in 1 year, or $10,000. What does $10,000 look like in a stack of 100s at the end of the year? Because, right? Because you actually made it last year without that $10,000. So you could literally have that stack of 10,000 in 100s, or even in 20s, right? Even in 20s. So you've got that stack of money. What does that stack of money look like? And in the movies, oh my God, what's it smell like? Lots of hands have touched that. I don't recommend it. But the idea is that if you start visualizing what you want to achieve, it will make a world of difference. Because like I said, with a basketball, it improved 24% with practice. It improved 21% with just the visualization. Imagine now you're practicing weight loss, for example. You're eating just a tiny bit less. You're walking a tiny bit more. It's only a pound a week. And you're doing that all the time. Literally, we talk about it all the time. I use it as an example because it's a gigantic, hugely important goal for me this year, is finishing up this computer project. And I literally visualize, I have everything, like the sister knows, Sabrine, I get everything set up the night before for what I'm going to do tomorrow morning when my alarm clock goes off. I already know my alarm clock is going to go off at 5:30. I'm going to get up, I'm going to pray, I'm going to make sure, and with my son, I'm going to get him up. He's got to leave for work earlier than I do. So he gets up and he does his thing, and then we get ready. Prayers are said. His breakfast is made first, just because while after prayer, I am typing and working on the computer project. Because like I said, my computer guy's waiting. His end is done. I just have to feed him the information to put in. But the idea is tomorrow morning, I know that's what's going to take place. And most of you know tonight. I know right where my phone's going to be. It's going to be charging, and it's going to be set close to the floor, next to the bed so that I can hear it. and I would play Surat al-Kahf tonight in Arabic, because I love listening to Arabic, Quranic Arabic. And that's what's going to take place when I get ready to go to bed tonight. It's just beautiful. It really ramps me down. Listening to the Quran, we're told that in the grave, the Quran, if you really love the Quran and you put a lot of effort into the Quran will defend you when you're questioned in the grave for Muslims, right? So I want the Quran to argue for me that I listen to it darn near every night. And the Quran knows that I love the Quran. And I picture that. So the idea is, if you envision your goal, whatever it is, whether it's basketball, whether it's the extra stack of money at the end of the year, or imagine the stack of bills you may have that you've paid down because you earned that extra money. Does that make sense? So there were two ways for me in my office to make more money: get a raise and figure out how to work more. And I told you how I did that last month, I think. So if you picture your goal and then you try to figure out the action steps that go with it, really envision, close your eyes, envision it, and figure it out. I'm not lying. It's not woo-woo to me anymore. It is scientific fact. Just like when you go to the movies and you believe what you see. Your brain will already know, like the basketball and the golf studies that I mentioned, your brain will already know what success looks like. Meditation works. It's all that stuff. But I'm talking use that same idea with active visualization for whatever success you want to have. And then it even, like in my case, when I visualize, it even introduces other action steps. While I'm thinking of it and focusing on it, an idea will pop in and I'll add that. Like this computer project turned into a matching written guide. And then trying to figure out how to work that out, a couple of ideas came in for adding books to that. So literally, when you really, really, really get into it, and when you visualize, your brain believes you. Your brain knows that it's important because you are focused on it. Not just once, but a little bit. Repetition is key. Your brain's language is repetition. The more you think about it, the more important your brain thinks it is. Like we talked about with goal setting and family relationships. The more you think about pleasing your spouse, helping your children, making yourself a better person, hugely important with goal setting and achieving, is not a selfish, but improve yourself and bring a better you to your relationship. When the sister was talking about, and we did a whole thing about modeling yourself into a good potential spouse, right? Be the best person that you can be so that you attract the best people to you. It's really important to, like I said with a quote about protect you and your family, right? So you really want to make sure you're role modeling the right stuff for your family, especially us men. Don't be a sloppy man and expect your wife to maintain her beauty. Don't be a sloppy man and expect your kids to be hugely successful just because you told them, right? Kids do what you do, not what you say. And they never do everything you do. And they very rarely do anything you say. I have 4, love my kids to death. But the idea is bring the best you to your situation. And again, focus on yourself, but visualize exactly what you are trying to achieve. It's no exaggeration based on the research. If you envision it, and it's not, how do you say, the idea that think and it shall just happen. I don't go that route. It's everything is the qadr of Allah. And if you are going to be blessed with something, you will be blessed with something. And if it's going to be withheld, that's probably a blessing also. There was a famous scholar, I wish I could remember the name. He used to thank Allah for not blessing him with all this luxury. And he said, because he saw others that were given those blessings and it broke them. So imagine if everything's saved for Jannah. So I'm telling you, most of us will spend all day and think, you might know people that complain and you're hanging out with the brothers at the masjid, and what are you doing? You're complaining about the kids not behaving. You're complaining about your wife, and she doesn't cook as well as she used to. She doesn't pay attention to you like she used to. Your boss doesn't appreciate you like he did when you first got hired, or you hate your job, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, if you want to change things and you want to end a conversation, ask someone while they're doing all that, well, what do you want? And that's about what you'll get back. Most of us don't know what they want, and I'm speaking from experience. My kids will tell you, I tell them, don't do like I did growing up, in the sense that I literally just fell into, and now I realize it was a qadar of Allah, but I just fell into things that worked out, and I never envisioned this, and I didn't envision that, and meeting that person over there, and knowing, and this opportunity over there. I literally, I just fall into things, and that's no way to live your life. It's at that point, it's kind of stressful, because you don't have a plan. You don't know what steps to take. And if something doesn't go your way, you don't know what to change. But if you envision your goal and make it a big one, even if you don't achieve it, the idea is, what do they say? Shoot for the moon, and even if you miss, you're amongst the stars. Really cool quote. The idea is, picture yourself being a millionaire who's able to make Hajj every year, who's able to help build local masajid, who is able to donate to the genocide victims, who's able to donate all over the world, help neighbors, help family, help friends. Imagine what you would do with that kind of money. Picture it. And then start thinking about, what can I do? What am I good at? What do I like to do? How can I generate more income to achieve these goals? Or, I love my job. How can I be better at it? I love my supervisor's job. How can I get that job and work side by side with them? Or they were friends and they told me they're retiring in a few years. What do I need to do to improve my skill set so that I can earn that position and that recommendation? Does that make sense? Personal improvement, without being selfish about it, is a huge, huge, huge effector in your goals. It's like with the things I talk about right now with the brain stuff. I never visualized. That was not, like I said, woo-woo was the word for it. I thought it was nonsense, and it never made any sense to me. But as I studied more and more brain, how the brain works, some of the things I'm typing up right now, the different areas of the brain that affect visualization, holy cow. It's scientific fact. And the Quran even talks about it in some of the verses. I can't remember them off the top of my head. But yes, it's there. Oh, real cool verse. Just read it the other day about being included in a group of people that are talking poorly or bad talking. You should ask them to stop or at least leave, right? And if you don't leave and you stay and participate, even if you just stay and you don't change it, if you stay, you will be included amongst them. Well, there's real cool research about that. Brain research. This was 1500 years ago. The verse is revealed. And now there's really cool research about that, showing that in groups that are working together on a project, they want to figure out how to help businesses and stuff. If you're working together on a project, literally, they measured them with EEG, QEEG. And they saw that when the group got into it, and they got into a group flow, and they were sharing ideas and feeding off of each other, and it was working, their brain waves started to sync up. So then the Quran tells us, you don't want to be in a group of bad talkers because you will be counted amongst them. When that punishment comes, that brainwave stuff, real cool research also. If you work next to within 20 feet of a great employee, you will improve 15%, I believe it was. If you work within the same distance of a horrible employee, your production increases, I think it was 15%, increases 15% with a good employee. It decreases over 20 when you're near a bad employee. The Quran told us this. So that brain, that what goes in, and that's the only thing you can control, is literally your thoughts. If a negative thought starts coming in, push it out and think something good about yourself. Even if you have to go all the way back to the first time you ever got an A and your parents were proud of you in school. That's how smart you are. Does that make sense? You're only as smart as you think you are. My mother keeps telling me, kind of embarrassing thing about visualization and the way you picture yourself. I always thought of myself as a terrible student, as a lazy student. I didn't like this, I didn't like that. I didn't work hard in high school. It was easy to pass classes. It was just not a big deal, okay, up in upstate New York. And I was in the Regents program, if any of you are old enough to know about that stuff. And the standardized stuff, a little more than just I don't even know how they differentiated it. It's not like I chose it, that's where I ended up. And I graduated high school with B's and C's, not doing anything. Literally not any effort at all. I had to work a little harder in college, but I didn't for my undergraduate stuff. But man, when I got to chiropractic school and I went in thinking this stuff is going to be hard, my whole practice, my whole training, my whole studying, just because I told myself going in, this is going to be harder than anything I have ever done in my life, is going to chiropractic school and learning healthcare stuff and chiropractors, it's brain and nervous system for us. Really a lot of nervous system. And then the functional neurology expanded my brain education. The idea is that I went in thinking I was going to have to do this. I literally envisioned the outcome. I'm going to school to graduate in my 30s. I envisioned the outcome of graduation. I then had to figure out how I was going to accomplish that. And I mapped it out. First time I ever really set a goal and put action steps and time into it. And I sat down and I said, I got 24 hours. I did this process. I've got 24 hours in a day visualizing the graduation, not realizing that's what I was doing, but I'm thinking about graduation all the time, from the start to the finish. It was graduating. I could see myself crossing the stage, getting my diploma, wherever we had the graduation ceremony at. I knew I was getting my diploma. So I mapped out my day. We all have 24 hours. 6 to 8 of those hours in my early 30s, 6 to 8 were locked in on sleeping or taking a nap to make up for studying late and not sleeping, whatever the case. So 6 to 8 hours is gone. I'm left with 8 hours are gone. I'm left with 16 hours. I know I'm going to spend an hour or 2 hours eating and prepping meals because we didn't have on-campus housing. So now I'm down to 14 hours. Then I know I'm going to be in class anywhere from 3 to 5 hours every day. So now I'm down to 9 hours. I like exercising. So now I lose another 2 hours, 3 to 5 days a week, depending on my class schedule. So I'm down to 9 hours. Now I'm down to 7 hours. And we lived off campus. I lived off campus. So 30 minutes of prep time, drive to campus, maybe pack a snack so I didn't have to drive home and drive back in between classes, depending on how big a break I had between classes. And I tried to stay at campus. And I literally stayed at campus, went to the library in between classes, and either studied the material that was just taught or study what I had learned or been taught yesterday, the day before, my harder classes, whatever I had to put more time into. And that's how I blocked out my 24 hours. And then if I felt like all my studying was accomplished, then I didn't have to do as much. If everything was done, then I could handle surprises. I could handle relaxation and clowning around with friends. It was in Georgia. Beautiful state that I had never been in before. And it was literally because I envisioned, and now that I look back on it, literally, I did everything Dr. Malolo had taught us about goal setting. I envisioned the goal. I mapped it out. I had action steps planned every day. And the first thing I did when I got my class schedule every semester, we were on quads. So it was every 10 weeks I had a new schedule. Every time I'd literally say, okay, this is what I'm going to do Monday. This is what I'm going to do Tuesday. This is where my workout is. This is how much sleep I should probably be able to get every night. This is da-da-da-da-da. And then the teachers would give us our test schedules. And even for our national boards, when I graduated, we only had two, part one and part two. And, right, national boards, I think there were only two. Anyway, there was a study organization, and the majority of students always went to those. Every time they came in, just before the national boards came, they'd come to campus and they'd cram and teach you all these shortcuts and and I didn't go to those. Myself and actually my roommate, I was blessed with a really motivated roommate, and he and I would study literally all year long. And then I had a couple friends, part of my study group that I was with from beginning to end. And we literally put in the time all the time. I had those people around me, alhamdulillah, that really fit, and their goals matched my goals. It wasn't about going out in the big city. It wasn't about having fun while we were there. It was honestly about graduating. That was the vision. And that's, like I said, that was the first time I can tell you, that was about the first time I really envisioned visualization. I didn't do it playing football in high school and college. I didn't do it running track in high school. I never did it before. I just did what the coaches said, and I practiced a lot, and that was it. Envisioning, that next level, envisioning, I can't emphasize it enough, that's literally some of the highest executive function. But it's also a good way to train in executive function. Picture yourself achieving that goal of a raise, earning the respect of your coworkers, that you do get it from your boss. If you can't, I don't recommend quitting, but the idea is improve yourself and make yourself more marketable. Make yourself your education, your self-improvement, make it on a higher level. Increase your knowledge, increase your marketability, increase your pay, kind of thing. In relationships, when I talk to my kids all the time, none of them are married, and they always talk about, how do we this and how do we that? And I always say one of the things, of course, is kindness. A lot of the English translations, it emphasizes kindness, it emphasizes piety. Those are two huge keys. So kindness, I always say what you need to do is find someone, one of the things I always talk about, find someone that is going to compete with you to treat you better than you treat them. What a fun competition that is. Think about it. If your partner, if your spouse, with your kids, train them on how to be helpful by you being helpful. My son had to be at work unbelievably early today because of the weather down here. And I set my alarm. I got up at 2 o'clock. I made sure he was up. I then, rather than go right back to bed while he was in the shower, I literally made the breakfast. I made him one of his favorites, eggs. The egg was folded over. I scramble it up and let it go as a pancake. Throw some cheese in there, fold it over. Toasted the bread, buttered the bread, and then halal. I put pepperoni slices on it. It's actually, I think this one is halal turkey roni, and a container of coconut water. He got back today. He said that was the best egg sandwich he had ever had. But the idea is competing with my kids to do something like that. Then they literally compete with me. The other day, my one daughter, her 23rd birthday, we all went down there. And the next day, I went out with my other daughter for lunch. She had the day off, and my daughter had the birthday girl had to go to work. So my other daughter asked me to stay in town, and she said she wanted to go out to lunch. So we went out to lunch, and my father set the example, and so I try to do it all the time. I always pay. I'm literally trying to pay all the time. Man, don't you know she told the waitress without me knowing to give her the bill? So my daughter, competing with me, won and paid for breakfast, for brunch. So the idea is, again, and now my youngest son, making him the sandwich and stuff, it didn't take anything. My alarm went off at 2. I heard, and then I made his breakfast and talked to him for a few minutes, made sure he was real awake and not nodding, and I put him to bed early. You know, it's literally, he fell asleep before Isha, then I wake him up, and then he goes to bed right after that. So it's with spouses, with family members, with friends. My circle is kind of tight, but the idea is compete with people in kindness. And imagine if you find a spouse that does more for you than you do for them, but it's because they're putting in the extra effort to beat you at the extra effort you're putting in. Be the person that earns that deserves that, that Allah wants you to have that kind of blessing stuff, okay? And that's, and you got to envision that. You literally have to think about the things that you can do. I knew what I was going to do when I went to bed last night. My alarm clock went off at 2 o'clock. I knew I was going to stay up and make breakfast for him. And I knew right after he left, I was going right back to bed. That was the vision. And then I got up for Fajr, alhamdulillah. But the idea is you envision that stuff. Do you see how like that worked? I knew what I was going to do. And most of you, it's not hard. It's not a lot of extra stuff. Most of you already do it. You know what time you're getting up for breakfast, for work tomorrow, for example. I know Fajr is between 5, I think it's 5:13 now. 5:13 and, or is it 5:20 and 6:13? Anyway, when I get up at 5:30, it's right on time. So my alarm clock is set for 5:30, right? That's envisioned, that's planned. I know what I'm going to do. And then we're going to do what I did today, except it's not 2 o'clock. And then after I'm done with my prayers, cleaning and praying, I'm going to come over here. I usually don't eat before. And I come over, I sit down at the computer, and I'm going to do my typing. And then I'm going to eat. Then I'm going to jump in the shower, clean up, and get ready for work. Does that make sense? You guys are probably going to, like Sister Sabrine is going to wake up about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, as she said. She's going to have her book and her writing material, whatever she uses, pen, paper, pencil, and she's going to set everything up. And when she wakes up at 1 or 2 o'clock, inshallah, she's going to get up, do whatever get her drink, get her coffee or her water, and she's going to sit down and start writing a little bit. And then if she nods off, she did what she already knows. Most of you know you're going to get up, you're going to pray, you're going to have breakfast. If you have kids, you're going to start getting them ready. Everybody prays together. You feed them, you get them ready for school, and then you go to work or you stay home, whatever yours is. You already envision most of it. Now make it a conscious act. Literally map out the day if you want to, like I did for chiropractic school. Map out the day. What's the 24 hours going to look like? And it doesn't have to be what they say written in stone. Literally, if you make a schedule, and like my schedule today, there was a change. But because I had a plan, it fit right in there. I just had a hour-long couple side trips. But I got it done in an hour. And then I went right back to my plan. Got some of it done. Like I said, 2 o'clock, went back to bed, got up, prayed. Ran over to the bank, ran over to pay for something that's being done for me. Then I had to run a couple of errands for my mother. Today's my day off most of the time. Ran a couple of errands. That was a surprise. Not disappointment, just surprise. Made it fit. Went back in. Then I did my typing. I was going to do that earlier, but I did my typing. Then I exercised. And then, let's see. Oh, then we led right into this. Does that make sense? So, pretty relaxed on a day off. But I had my plan for my day off. And again, it starts at about the same time every day starts. And I envision it. Tomorrow, it's going to start the same way. 5:30, do my thing, check on my son, pray, do my typing, and then get ready for work. And it's literally all the brothers and sisters out there and our entire audience, sorry. You really, it's one of these things that you should really get in the habit of doing things on purpose is a great way to think of it. Do it on purpose. And then when accidents or surprises, hopefully good surprises, when good surprises happen, then how do they say? When opportunity knocks, you should be prepared. And one of the best ways to be prepared is have a plan. And that way, when things come up, fit it in. Like all I did was space out things, but I got back to everything that I had planned on doing. And it's literally do things on purpose, have a plan, and tonight, before you go to bed, envision how you're going to at least start your day tomorrow. And you know you got to be at work at this time. You've got to take this bus or that train, the bigger cities. You've got to drive this long. You've got to think about this traffic. You've already got it planned out. It's really important. Plan your downtime too. Plan your downtime. I know I had my workout fit in. I knew I was going to have, y'all know I don't really like coffee, but I drink 1 or 2 cups every day because there's some good research on it with good coffee. And I put a little powder from a company I like, Standard Process. I use the chocolate powder, and because that way I have a nice flavor in it, because I don't like the flavor of coffee. But I literally made my coffee. I did my, I had a cup of coffee just before I worked out. I had a cup of coffee just before I did my, to start the day, because I thought I was going to get back to my typing and I wanted to be hyper alert. But then I had to run a couple errands. Then I came home and I had the coffee. So then I just went into the typing and I had the coffee just before my workout. So I had my second cup then. Does that make sense? So it's literally, I plan out most of my day allowing for things. And if you can't get everything in because there were changes, if it's that important, make it for tomorrow. It's literally boop, 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 carry it over. It's when you have a plan, you create your own options. You really do. Plan in your downtime, plan in your, I've got a 15-minute block. You know what I'm going to do? Not that I am, being the single guy that I am, but I'm going to sit down, pretend it's you, first person. I am literally going to sit down next to my spouse, put my arm around them, and if they are, pretend they're right-brained, and they respond right-brain stuff. So you're going to sit down next to them on their left side. You're going to put your hand on that shoulder, that left shoulder. You're going to talk in that left ear, the left field of vision. All of those, for a reason, all of those cross over to a right brain stimulation. The sound crosses over, that way both sides hear it. It comes in the left and crosses over. The vision, out of the left field of vision, crosses over. The touch, the right brain controls the left body and the left brain controls the right body. So if they're left brain people and you want to stim their left brain, you sit on the right side and do all of that, right? And give them the 15 minutes of attention. Same thing with your kids. Like I said, if you want more on the brain stuff, listen to the previous lectures on the Sisters website. And you can also go to you can go to Amazon or go right straight through Dr. Robert Melillo, ILLO, through his website and buy his Disconnected Kids book. Disconnected Kids. Phenomenal book. And his Reconnected Kids book. Both of those books are really heavy in our understanding of right hemisphere and left hemisphere activity and stuff. But literally do that. If you find a 15-minute window, spend 15 minutes being nice to friends and loved ones. If you're, in my case, maybe mom, whatever, she's busy doing something, I may pick up a book that I'm reading and read that, or be nice to myself, close my eyes and envision tomorrow. It's today's Thursday. It's 7:30. Ooh, 7:30. I'm starting to ramp down, even if you can't tell. I'm already, after we're done, I start my evening getting ready for Maghrib just after 8 here, and Isha is close to 9:20, and I'm planning that. And I know like I said, I know I'm going to listen to the Quran. I know I'm, inshallah, all this will happen. Make that stuff fit. Make everything on purpose, because there's so much you already do. It's not a problem if you start planning that spare time, your time. Plan your time for you to enjoy your family and loved ones. Literally plan it.